Worry is a state of consciousness that stems from a misunderstanding of your true nature. When you worry, you are operating from a limited, finite sense of self. You are identifying with your physical body and your personal history, forgetting that ultimate being that you truly are. But I tell you now, you are not your body. You are not your personal history. You are not even the sum of your thoughts and emotions. You are the awareness in which all these experiences arise. You are the infinite creative power of the universe, expressing itself as a human being. When you truly understand this, worry becomes impossible. For how can the infinite creative power of the universe worry about anything? How can God, which you are, be concerned about solving a problem? Let us delve deeper into this concept. The world you see around you is not the cause of your experience, but the effect. It is the outpicturing of your states of consciousness. Every circumstance in your life, every challenge you face, is a reflection of your inner world. Therefore, when you worry about a problem, you are actually giving power to that problem. You are affirming its reality in your consciousness, and thus in your experience. But when you rest in the knowledge that God, the God within you, will solve it, you are aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. This is not mere positive thinking or wishful optimism. This is a fundamental law of consciousness. Just as a seed contains within it the pattern of the fully grown plant, your consciousness contains within it the solution to every problem you could ever face. When you say God will solve it, you are not advocating responsibility or passively waiting for some external force to intervene. You are declaring your alignment with the infinite intelligence within you. You are acknowledging that the power that created the universe is fully capable of handling whatever situation you are facing. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, I have real problems. How can I not worry? I understand this concern. The challenges of life can seem overwhelming when viewed from a limited perspective, but I ask you to shift your perspective. Instead of focusing on the problem, focus on the state of consciousness where the problem is already solved. This is what I mean when I say God will solve it. You are moving your attention from the problem to the solution, from the question to the answer. Imagine for a moment that your problem, whatever it may be, is already solved. How would you feel? What would your mental state be? This feeling, this state of consciousness, is the key to allowing God to solve your problem. You see, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, when you live from the end, you are aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. You are stepping into the consciousness of the version of you for whom the problem is already solved. This is not pretense or self-deception. This is the active use of your imagination, which is God in action within you. Your imagination is not a separate part of you. It is the very essence of your being. It is the creative power through which all things are possible. When you imagine the solution, when you feel the relief and gratitude of your problem being solved, you are literally reshaping the substance of the universe. You are setting in motion the forces that will bring about the solution in your physical reality. Now let us address a common misunderstanding about this principle. Some might think that saying God will solve it means doing nothing, simply waiting for a solution to magically appear. But this is not the case at all. When you truly align yourself with the consciousness of the solution, you will be inspired to take what I call the right action. This action will not feel like struggle or effort. It will feel natural, even inevitable. You will find yourself in the right place at the right time, saying the right words, meeting the right people. This is because you are no longer operating from the limited perspective of the problem. You are operating from the expanded consciousness of the solution. Your actions are no longer driven by fear or worry, but by inspiration and inner guidance. Remember, the outer world is dead. It has no power to create or to change. All creation happens first in consciousness. Your job is not to manipulate the outer world, but to change your inner world. As you change within, the outer must conform. Let us now explore the concept of faith in relation to God will solve it. Faith is not blind belief in something outside of yourself. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is a knowing beyond physical evidence. When you have true faith that God will solve your problem, you are not hoping for a future event. You are acknowledging a present fact. You are recognizing that in the realm of pure consciousness, where all creation takes place, your problem is already solved. This kind of faith moves mountains. It parts seas. It transforms the very fabric of your reality. For when you have absolute faith that God will solve it, you are aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. You are becoming one with the solution. Now, some of you might be wondering about the role of time in this process. You might be thinking, when will God solve my problem? But I tell you now, time is an illusion of the physical world. In the realm of consciousness, where all creation takes place, there is no time. Your desire is fulfilled the moment you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled with conviction. The time it takes for this to appear in your physical reality is determined by your faith and your persistence in the assumed state. So do not concern yourself with when or how God will solve your problem. Your job is to assume the state of the wish fulfilled, to live from the end, to embody the consciousness of the solution. The how and when will take care of themselves. Let us now address the concept of surrender in relation to God will solve it. Surrender is not about giving up or admitting defeat. It is about releasing your attachment to how things should be and trusting in the higher intelligence of the universe. When you truly surrender your problem to God, you are not washing your hands of it. You are acknowledging that the infinite intelligence within you, which created the universe, is fully capable of handling whatever situation you are facing you. This surrender allows you to step out of the limited perspective of the problem and into the expanded consciousness of the solution. It frees you from the burden of trying to figure everything out with your finite mind, allowing the infinite intelligence of the universe to work through you. Remember, worry is a form of negative creation. When you worry, you are using to create what you do not want. But when you surrender your problem to God, saying with conviction, God will solve it, you are using your imagination constructively. You are aligning yourself with the creative power of the universe. Now let us explore the concept of gratitude in relation to God will solve it. Gratitude is not just a polite sentiment. It is a powerful creative force. When you are truly grateful, you are acknowledging the presence of your desire in your life. You are affirming its reality even before it manifests in the physical realm. So as you trust that God will solve your problem, cultivate a deep sense of gratitude. Be thankful not just for what you can see and touch, but for the unseen solution that is even now unfolding in your life. Give thanks for the wisdom that guides you, the love that surrounds you, and the power that resides within you. This gratitude puts you in a state of receptivity. It opens you to receive the solution that God is providing. It aligns you with the abundance of the universe. Practice gratitude not from a place of lack, hoping to receive, but from a place of fullness, knowing you already have. Let us now address the concept. The touch might seem contradictory to what we've discussed about faith and gratitude, but it's actually complementary. Detachment doesn't mean not caring about the solution to your problem. It means releasing your anxious attachment to how or when it will manifest. When you're anxiously attached to the outcome, you're actually affirming the presence of the problem. You're saying, I need this solution because I have this problem. This state of consciousness keeps the problem alive in your experience. True detachment comes from the deep knowing that God has already solved your problem in consciousness, and therefore it must manifest in your physical reality. It's a state of calm certainty of knowing the law is at work, even when you can't see the evidence yet. This detachment allows you to truly live in the end. You're not waiting for something to happen. You're simply being who you are, a person for whom the problem is already solved. This state of being is far more powerful than any amount of doing or trying. Now let us discuss the concept of revision. Revision is a powerful tool in allowing God to solve your problems. Each night, before you sleep, review the events of your day, but do not review them as they appear to your senses. Revise them to align with the state of your problem being solved. If you encounter challenges related to your problem during the day, revise them. See them as stepping stones towards the solution. If you had negative thoughts or emotions about your problem, revise them. See yourself responding with faith and confidence, knowing that God is solving it. You are not denying what happened. You are actively reshaping your memory and thus your future. Remember, your memories are not fixed. They are fluid, constantly being reconstructed. By consciously revising your memories, you are literally rereading your past. And as you change your past in your imagination, you change the trajectory of your future. Let us now explore the concept of persistence. Trusting that God will solve your problem is not a one-time event. It is a continuous choice. You must persist in this state of faith and surrender, even when the outer world shows no sign of change. This persistence is what distinguishes those who successfully manifest their desires from those who do not. Think of it like this. When you move to a new home, you don't wake up each morning wondering where you are. You naturally assume your new surroundings. This is how you must be with your faith that God will solve your problem. It should become your new normal, your new home state. But what if you falter? What if you find yourself slipping back into worry and doubt? Do not despair. Simply acknowledge it and return to your state of faith and surrender. Remember, you are breaking lifelong habits of thought and feeling. It takes practice. Be patient with yourself, but be persistent. Now let us address the concept of everyone is you pushed out. This principle states that everyone in your world is a reflection of your consciousness. The way people treat you, the opportunities that come your way, even the seemingly random events in your life, all are reflections of your state of being. This understanding brings with it a great responsibility. It means that if you want to experience a world where your problems are solved, you must first embody that state within yourself. As you trust that God will solve your problems, you will naturally see others differently, and they will respond differently to you. During this process of trusting God to solve your problems, be aware of how you perceive others. Are your perceptions aligned with the reality of your problems being solved? If not, consciously choose to see others in a way that supports your faith. See them as helpful, supportive, playing their perfect part in the unfolding of solution. Remember, you are not manipulating others. You are simply aligning your perception with your desired reality, and others will naturally conform to this new perception. Let us now delve into the concept of the law of assumption. This law states that if you assume a state and persist in it, it must become your reality. When you assume the state of your problem being solved, when you live from the consciousness of God will solve it, you are setting in motion the forces that will bring this assumption into your physical reality. This is not about forcing or manipulating external circumstances. It's about aligning yourself with the reality where your problem is already solved. When you truly assume this state, you're not trying to make something happen. You're experiencing the state of it already being done. Imagine you have a friend who lives in another city. When you think of this friend, you don't visualize them or affirm their existence. You simply know they exist. This is the kind of knowing you must have about the solution to your problem. It should be as real and as natural to you as the existence of your distant friend. This state of knowing, of living from the end, is what truly activates the law of assumption. It aligns your entire being, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, with the reality of your problem being solved. And in this alignment, miracles happen. Now, let us address the role of emotion in this process. Emotion is crucial. It is the fuel that gives life to your assumption. When you assume the state of your problem being solved, you must feel the reality of it. You must experience the relief, the joy, the gratitude of the solution. But here's a key point. These emotions should not be intense or forced. They should be natural, calm, the kind of quiet joy you feel when you think of something you already possess. Remember, you are not trying to convince yourself of something. You are simply acknowledging what is already true in your consciousness. Let us now explore the concept of the Sabbath. The Sabbath in this context is not about a particular day of the week, but about a state of mind. It is a state of complete rest from all effort, a state of knowing that your work is done. In the process of allowing God to solve your problem, the Sabbath state is crucial. It is the state of total acceptance of the solution as an accomplished fact. In this state, you no longer feel the need to make the solution happen because you know it is already done. Practice entering the Sabbath state. After you've done your imaginative work, after you've assumed the feeling of your problem being solved, consciously enter a state of rest. Release all anxiety, all need to make it happen. Know that God is at work, and your only task now is to rest in the certainty of the solution. Now let us address the concept of divine timing. Often, when we're facing a problem, we want an immediate solution. We want God to solve it right now. But remember, in the realm of pure consciousness, there is no time. Your problem is already solved the moment you assume the state of the solution with conviction. The time it takes for the solution to appear in your physical reality is determined by divine timing. This is not about some external force making you wait. It's about the perfect holding of events that will bring about your solution in the most harmonious way. Trust in this divine timing. Know that the solution is already yours in consciousness, and it will manifest in your physical reality at the perfect moment. Your job is not to worry about when or how, but to maintain your faith and live from the end. Let us now explore the concept of your divine nature. When I say God will solve it, I am not referring to an external deity. I am referring to the God within you, the divine creative power that is your very essence. You are not a mere human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. You are God individualized, the infinite creative power of the universe expressing itself as you. When you truly understand this, you realize that there is no problem too big for you to handle. There is no challenge that God cannot solve because you are that God. The power that created the universe resides within you, and it is fully capable of solving whatever problem you are facing. Now let us address the concept of resistance. When you're facing a problem, it's natural to feel resistance. You want to push against the problem, to fight it, to overcome it. But this resistance often keeps the problem in place. Remember, what you resist persists. When you resist a problem, you are giving it your energy and attention. You are affirming its reality in your consciousness. Instead of resisting your problem, practice acceptance. This doesn't mean you like the problem or want it to continue. It means you accept that in this moment, this is what is. Then from this place of acceptance, you can more easily shift into the consciousness of the solution. Let us now explore the concept of your inner conversations. Your inner conversations, the thoughts you think and the words you speak to yourself, are shaping your reality. When you're constantly thinking and talking about your problem, you're reinforcing its existence in your experience. Start paying attention to your inner conversations. Are they aligned with the state of your problem being solved? Or are they keeping you stuck in the consciousness of the problem? Practice having inner conversations that align with the solution. Speak to yourself as if your problem is already solved. Have imaginary conversations with others where you discuss the wonderful resolution of your situation. These inner conversations are powerful creative forces that shape your reality. Now, let us address the concept of your self-concept. Your self-concept, the way you see yourself, plays a crucial role in allowing God to solve your problems. If you see yourself as someone who is always struggling, always facing problems, that's the reality you'll create. But if you see yourself as someone who is divinely guided and supported, someone for whom solutions come easily, that's the reality you'll experience. Work on upgrading your self-concept. See yourself as someone who naturally attracts divine solutions to any challenge. Remember, you are not changing who you are. You are simply aligning with your true divine nature, recognizing the God within you that is fully capable of solving any problem. Let us now explore the concept of forgiveness. Forgiveness is a powerful tool in allowing God to solve your problems. Often our problems are tied to resentments, grudges, or unforgiveness towards ourselves or others. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning hurtful behavior. It means releasing the emotional charge of past events so they no longer control you. As you forgive yourself and others, you clear the path for divine solutions to flow into your life. Practice forgiveness daily. Forgive yourself for past mistakes. Forgive others for perceived wrongs. As you do this, you'll find that solutions to your problems come more easily and naturally. Now let us delve deeper into the concept of living in the end. When you say God will solve it, you are not hoping for a future event. You are acknowledging a present fact. In the realm of imagination, where all creation takes place, your problem is already solved. Living in the end means experiencing your desire as a present fact, not a future possibility. It's about feeling the relief, the joy, the gratitude of your problem being solved right now in this moment. This state of consciousness collapses time and brings your desire into the present moment, making its manifestation inevitable. Remember, in the realm of imagination, there is no time. Your desire is fulfilled the moment you assume the feeling of its fulfillment with conviction. The time it takes for this to appear in your physical reality is determined by your faith and your persistence in the assumed state. Let us now address the concept of the law of reversed effort. This law states that the harder you try to achieve something, the more you push it away. This is why so many people struggle to solve their problems. They are trying too hard, and in their effort, they are actually affirming the presence of the problem. Instead of striving and struggling, relax into the knowing that God will solve it. Release all effort. You are not trying to solve the problem. You are simply acknowledging the solution that is already yours in consciousness. This state of effortless acceptance is far more powerful than any amount of trying or struggling. Now, let us explore the concept of the bridge of incidents. When you assume the state of your problem being solved, a series of events is set in motion to bring about the manifestation of your desire. This series of events is called the bridge of incidents. The key here is to trust the bridge. You don't need to know how God will solve your problem. Your job is simply to maintain your assumption and allow the bridge to unfold naturally. Each event, each encounter, each seeming coincidence is a part of this bridge, leading you to the full manifestation of your solved problem. Let us address the concept of dimensional shifting. This is the idea that for every possible reality, there is a version of you already experiencing it. Your task in allowing God to solve your problem is not to create something new, but to shift your consciousness to align with the version of you for whom the problem is already solved. Practice thinking from the perspective of the you who has already experienced the solution. How would that version of you think? How would they feel? What decisions would they make? Align yourself with this version of you, and you will naturally shift into the reality where your problem is solved. Now, let us delve into the power of your self-talk. Your self-talk is not just idle chatter in your mind. It's a declaration to the universe. The way you speak to yourself about your problems and their solutions is shaping your reality. Start paying attention to your self-talk. Are you constantly affirming the presence of your problem? Or are you speaking as if the solution is already yours? Choose your words consciously. Speak as if God has already solved your problem. Use phrases like, I am so grateful that this situation has been resolved, instead of, I hope this problem will be solved. Let us explore the concept of non-resistance once more. Non-resistance doesn't mean being passive or accepting undesirable circumstances. It means not giving your problem any more power through your resistance to it. When you resist a problem, when you fight against it, you are actually energizing it. You are giving it your attention and your emotional energy. Instead, practice non-resistance. Acknowledge the problem without judgment, then shift your attention to the state of the solution. Now let us address the concept of your point of power. Your point of power is always in the present moment. It's not in the past where the problem might have originated. It's not in the future where you hope the solution will come. It's right here, right now. In this present moment, you have the power to choose your state of consciousness. You have the power to align yourself with the reality where God has already solved your problem. Use this point of power wisely. Choose thoughts, feelings, and actions that align with the solution, not the problem. Let us delve into the concept of your I am. Your I am is your true self, the God within you. It is the creative power through which all things are possible. When you say I am, you are invoking this creative power. Be very careful with what you attach to your I am. I am struggling with this problem creates a very different reality than I am grateful for the divine solution to this situation. Choose your I am statements wisely, for they are powerful creative forces. Now let us explore the concept of your imagination once more. Your imagination is not mere fantasy or daydreaming. It is God in action within you. It is the creative power through which all things are made. When you use your imagination to experience the solution to your problem, you are literally reshaping the substance of the universe. You are impressing upon your subconscious mind the reality of the solution, and your subconscious mind must then work to bring this impressed image into your physical experience. Let us address the concept of detachment once again. Detachment doesn't mean not caring about the solution to your problem. It means releasing your anxious attachment to how or when it will manifest. When you're anxiously attached to the outcome, you are actually affirming the presence of the problem. You are saying, I need this solution because I have this problem. This state of consciousness keeps the problem alive in your experience. True detachment comes from the deep, knowing that God has already solved your problem in consciousness, and therefore it must manifest in your physical reality. It's a state of calm certainty of knowing the law is at work, even when you can't see the evidence yet. Now, let us explore the concept of your state of consciousness. Your state of consciousness is the sum total of your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs in any given moment. It is the lens through which you perceive and interact with reality. When you say God will solve it, you are choosing to occupy a state of consciousness where the solution is already a fact. This state of consciousness then shapes your perception and your experience of reality. Remember, you are not trying to change the outer world. You are changing your state of consciousness. And as you do, the outer world must conform to match this new inner state. Let's address the concept of your creative power once more. You are not a powerless being at the mercy of external circumstances. You are a creative being, made in the image and likeness of God. The power that created the universe resides within you. When you say God will solve it, you are acknowledging this creative power within you. You are aligning yourself with the infinite intelligence that orchestrates the cosmos. Trust in this power. Have faith in your ability to create the reality you desire. Now, let us explore the concept of your divine timing once again. Divine timing is not about some external force making you wait for your solution. It's about the perfect unfolding of events that will bring about your solution in the most harmonious way. Trust in this divine timing. Know that the solution is already yours in consciousness, and it will manifest in your physical reality at the perfect moment. Your job is not to worry about when or how, but to maintain your faith and live from the end. Let us address the concept of your inner knowing. Beyond your thoughts, beyond your emotions, there is a deep inner knowing within you. This is the voice of God, the infinite intelligence that knows exactly how to solve your problem. Learn to listen to this inner knowing. It often speaks in subtle ways, a quiet nudge, a sudden inspiration, a feeling of peace. As you trust this inner knowing, you'll find yourself naturally guided towards the solution to your problem. Now, let us explore the concept of your divine nature once more. You are not separate from God. You are an individualized expression of God. The power that created the universe is not outside of you, it is you. When you truly understand this, you realize that there is no problem too big for you to handle. There is no challenge that God cannot solve, because you are that God. The power that created the universe resides within you, and it is fully capable of solving whatever problem you are facing. In conclusion, remember that God will solve it is not a passive statement of hope. It is a powerful declaration of your alignment with the creative forces of the universe. It is an acknowledgement of your true divine nature and your inherent ability to create the reality you desire. Trust in this truth. Have faith in the God within you. Live from the state of your problem being solved, and watch as your outer world reshapes itself to match your inner state. For truly with God, all things are possible. Most people go through life believing that they are victims of circumstance, that they must accept whatever life hands them, that they are powerless to change their conditions. They pray to a God outside of themselves. They hope for luck. They wait for opportunities. And they wonder why their lives remain the same year after year. But I tell you tonight, you are not a victim. You are not powerless. You are not at the mercy of external forces. You are the operant power of your world, and the universe must respond to you when you learn to speak its language. The secret I am about to reveal to you is this: your imagination is God. Not a God among many gods, but the only God there is. Your wonderful human imagination is the creative power of the universe itself, individualized as you. When you imagine, you are not engaging in idle fantasy. You are literally creating your future. You are commanding the universe to rearrange itself according to your imaginal act. This is not metaphor. This is not poetry. This is the absolute truth of existence. But you must understand what imagination truly is. It is not mere visualization or daydreaming. True imagination is the ability to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. It is the capacity to enter into a state of consciousness where you experience your desires already accomplished. When you can do this completely, when you can live in that assumption with such conviction that it feels more real than your present circumstances, then you have spoken the creative word, and the universe must respond. Now let me explain to you how this works. Everything that exists in your world, everything you can see and touch and experience, first existed as an imaginal act in consciousness. Your present circumstances, your relationships, your health, your wealth or lack thereof, your lathio, your home, everything in your experience was first imagined before it became fact. But here is what most people do not understand. You are constantly imagining. Every moment of every day, you are creating through your imagination. The question is not whether you are using your imagination, but whether you are using it consciously and deliberately to create what you want, or unconsciously to perpetuate what you do not want. Most people use their imagination against themselves. They imagine the worst possible outcomes. They replay past hurts and disappointments. They project their current limitations into the future. They imagine conversations where they are rejected, situations where they fail, circumstances where they are powerless. And because imagination is the creative power, these negative imaginings become their reality. They create through their imagination exactly what they do not want. And then they wonder why their lives are filled with struggle and disappointment. But you can reverse this process. You can begin to use your imagination deliberately and consciously to create the life you truly desire. You do this by learning to control your inner conversations, by disciplining your mind to dwell only on what you want to experience, by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, until that assumption becomes natural to you. Let me give you a practical example. Suppose you desire greater financial abundance. Most people, when they think about money, immediately feel the lack of it. They imagine all the bills they cannot pay, all the things they cannot afford, all the reasons why they will never have enough. This feeling of lack, this assumption of poverty, becomes their creative state. And the universe responds by giving them more experiences of lack and limitation. But if you understand the secret I am sharing with you tonight, you will do something entirely different. You will dare to assume that you already have the financial abundance you desire. You will imagine how it would feel to have more than enough money for all your needs and desires. You will live in that assumption. You will think from that state rather than about that state. You will imagine conversations where people congratulate you on your success. You will feel the satisfaction of being able to give generously to others. You will assume the mental attitude of someone who has abundant resources. At first, your rational mind will rebel against this assumption. It will tell you that you are being foolish, that you are denying reality, that you are engaging in wishful thinking. But you must persist. You must continue to live in your assumption, despite the evidence of your senses, despite the protests of reason, the opinions of others. For imagination is more real than fact, and your assumption, persisted in, will become your reality. This is the great secret that has been hidden in plain sight throughout the ages. It has been taught in the mystical traditions of every culture, encoded in the sacred texts of every religion. Yet it has been misunderstood and misinterpreted by those who could not accept its radical implications. For if you truly understood that your imagination is God, that you are the curator of your own experience, that you have the power to change your life simply by changing your assumptions, then you would no longer be dependent on external authorities. You would no longer need priests or teachers or gurus to intercede for you. You would know yourself as the operant power of your world. But understanding this intellectually is not enough. You must prove it to yourself through experience. You must test this principle in the laboratory of your own life. Choose something you desire, something specific and definite. Not something vague like happiness or success, but something concrete that you can clearly imagine having or being or experiencing. Then assume that you already have it. Live in that assumption. Think from it rather than about it. Persist in this assumption regardless of what your senses tell you, regardless of what others say, regardless of how impossible it may seem. And here is what will happen. The universe will begin to rearrange itself to match your assumption. Opportunities will appear that were not there before. People will come into your life who can help you. Circumstances will align in ways that seem miraculous but are actually the natural result of your imaginal act. What you have assumed in imagination will gradually externalize itself in your world of experience. But you must be willing to live in the end. This is perhaps the most difficult part for most people to understand. and accept. They want to imagine the process, the how, the steps between their current state and their desired state. But the creative power works from the end backwards. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You must live in the satisfaction of already having what you desire. And then the universe work out the details of how it will come to pass. This requires a complete reversal of the way most people think. They believe that first they must work hard, struggle, overcome obstacles, and then maybe, if they are lucky, they will achieve their goals. But I tell you that this is backwards. First, you must assume the feeling of already having achieved your goal. And then the work, the opportunities, the circumstances will appear to make it so. You do not create through effort and struggle. You create through assumption and feeling. Now let me address a concern that may be arising in your mind. You may be thinking, but surely I cannot simply imagine whatever I want and expect it to happen. There must be limits. There must be laws that govern what is possible and what is not. And you are right that there are laws, but they are not the laws you think they are. The only law that governs manifestation is the law of assumption. Whatever you assume to be true, if you persist in that assumption, will become your reality. There are no other limits except those you accept in your own mind. You see, what you call the physical world is not as solid and fixed as it appears. It is actually a world of symbols, a reflection of consciousness, a mirror of your inner states. When you change your inner state, when you change your assumptions, the outer world must change to conform to your new inner reality. This is not magic. This is not supernatural. This is the natural operation of consciousness itself. But you must be careful what you assume. For assumption is creative, whether it is positive or negative, whether it serves you or limits you. If you assume that you are unlucky, that you are always struggling, that good things happen to other people but not to you, then these assumptions will create experiences that confirm them. If you assume that you are blessed, that opportunities come easily to you, that you live a charmed life, then these assumptions will create experiences that confirm them instead. Most people are unconscious of their assumptions. They have inherited them from their family, their culture, their past experiences, and they accept them as truth without question. They assume that they are limited by their education, their background, their age, their circumstances, and these assumptions become the invisible walls of their prison. But when you become conscious of your assumptions, when you realize that you can choose what to assume, then you become free. You become the architect of your own experience. This is why I say that you must be born again, not in some religious sense, but in the sense of assuming a new identity, a new set of beliefs about yourself and your capabilities. You must die to your old self-concept and be resurrected as the person you truly want to be. This death and resurrection happens in imagination. You imagine yourself as already being the person you want to become, and you persist in this assumption until it becomes natural to you. Let me give you another example. Suppose you see yourself as shy and socially awkward. This self-concept creates experiences that confirm it. You avoid social situations. You feel nervous when meeting new people. You assume that others will not like you, and your behavior reflects these assumptions. But if you understand the secret I am sharing with you, you will begin to assume a new identity. You will imagine yourself as confident and charismatic. You will feel how it would feel to be at ease in social situations. You will assume that people are drawn to you, that you have interesting things to say, that you are welcomed wherever you go. At first, this new assumption will feel unnatural, even false. Your old self-concept will resist it. But if you persist, if you continue to live in this new assumption, something wonderful will happen. Your behavior will gradually change to match your assumption. You will find yourself speaking up more, taking social risks, engaging with others in ways you never did before. And because you are acting from a different assumption, people will respond to you differently. Your new self-concept will create new experiences that confirm it. This is the great secret of transformation. You do not become confident by acting confident. You act confident by assuming that you are already confident. You do not become successful by working hard to achieve success. You work from the assumption that you are already successful. And the work becomes the natural expression of that success rather than the struggle to attain it. But remember, assumption is not a mental exercise, it is a feeling. You must feel yourself to be what you want to be. You must assume the emotional state of having your desire fulfilled. This is why I say you must live in the end. You must capture the feeling you would have if your desire were already a reality. And you must live in that feeling until it becomes your natural state. And here is something else you must understand. There is no one to change but self. The whole vast world is yourself pushed out. Every person in your life, every situation you encounter, every condition you experience is a reflection of your own consciousness. When you change yourself, when you change your assumptions, the world around you must change to reflect your new inner state. This means that you are not trying to change other people or external circumstances. You are not trying to manipulate or control anything outside of yourself. You are simply changing your own consciousness, your own assumptions, your own inner state. And the external world changes automatically to match it. This is the most liberating truth you can ever learn. Or it means that you are never at the mercy of external conditions. You are always the operant power, always the one in control. But with this power comes responsibility. If you are the creator of your experience, then you must take full responsibility for everything that happens in your life. You cannot blame others. You cannot blame circumstances. You cannot blame luck or fate or God. Whatever you are experiencing is the result of your own consciousness, your own assumptions, your own imaginings. This may be difficult to accept at first, especially if you are experiencing difficult or unpleasant conditions. But accepting this responsibility is also the key to your freedom. For if you created your current experience, then you have the power to create a different experience. Now, you may be wondering how to apply this knowledge practically. How do you actually change your assumptions? How do you live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled? How do you make this abstract principle work in your concrete daily life? The answer is through the practice of controlled imagination. Every night before you fall asleep, when your mind is naturally relaxed and receptive, you imagine a scene that would naturally follow from the fulfillment of your desire. You do not imagine yourself getting what you want. You imagine yourself already having it. You construct a short scene, a brief dramatic moment that implies the fulfillment of wish, and you replay this scene over and over in your imagination until it feels real to you. For example, if you desire a promotion at work, you do not imagine yourself asking for the promotion or working hard to earn it. Instead, you imagine a scene where you are already in your new position. Perhaps you imagine a colleague congratulating you on your promotion, or you imagine yourself sitting in your new office, or you imagine your family celebrating your success. You choose one simple scene, and you make it vivid and real in your imagination. The key is to feel the reality of the scene. You must experience it as if it were actually happening. You must hear the congratulations, feel the handshake, see the expressions on people's faces, smell the flowers on your new desk. You must involve all your senses and emotions in making the scene as real as possible. And most importantly, you must feel the satisfaction, the joy, the sense of fulfillment that would naturally accompany the realization of your desire. You repeat this imaginal act night after night until it becomes natural to you, until you no longer have to force yourself to believe it, until it feels as real as any memory of something that has already happened. When you reach this point, when your assumption becomes natural and automatic, then you have impressed your subconscious mind with your desire, and it will work to bring it to pass in your external world. But during the day, you must also be vigilant about your thoughts and feelings. You must catch yourself when you slip back into your old assumptions. When you find yourself thinking thoughts that contradict your desire, when you feel emotions that deny your wish fulfilled, you must gently but firmly redirect your attention to your new assumption. You must think from your desired state rather than about it. This is not always easy. Your rational mind will present you with evidence that contradicts your assumption. Your senses will show you circumstances that seem to prove that your desire is not fulfilled. Other people may tell you that you are being unrealistic or delusional, but you must remain faithful to your assumption. You must persist in your imaginal act regardless of what appears to be true in the outer world. Remember, imagination creates reality, not the other way around. What you see in the external world is the result of past imagining. What you imagine now is creating your future reality. So do not let present circumstances discourage you or make you doubt your assumption. Know that as you persist in your new assumption, the external world must gradually conform to it. And here is something wonderful. As you continue to live in your assumption, you will find that it becomes easier and more natural. What once required effort and concentration will become automatic. You will find yourself naturally thinking and feeling from your desired state. You will discover that you have truly become the person you imagined yourself to be. This transformation is not just mental or emotional. It is a complete reorganization of your entire being. Your body language will change. Your speech patterns will change. Your habits and preferences will change. You will literally become a different person. One who naturally attracts and experiences the conditions you have assumed to be true. But remember, this is a process, not an event. Do not expect overnight transformation. Be patient with yourself as you learn to master this new way of being. Some assumptions will manifest quickly. Others may take more time. The key is persistence. Never give up on your assumption. Never accept defeat. Continue to live in the end regardless of how long it takes for the external world to catch up with your inner reality. And do not make the mistake of constantly checking for results. When you plant a seed in the ground, you do not dig it up every day to see if it is growing. You plant it, and then you let it grow naturally. In the same way, once you have planted your desire in consciousness through repeated imaginal acts, you must let it grow. Trust the process. Know that your assumption is working even when you cannot see evidence of it in the outer world. There will be times when you doubt, times when you wonder if this is all just wishful thinking, times when the evidence of your senses seems to contradict your assumption. This is natural and to be expected. But these moments of doubt are tests of your faith. They are opportunities to strengthen your conviction. When doubt arises, do not fight it. Simply return to your imaginal act. Feel once again the reality of your wish fulfilled. Remind yourself that imagination is the only reality and that your assumption persisted in must manifest in your world. You see, what I am teaching you is not positive thinking or the power of belief. Those are weak substitutes for the real thing. What I am teaching you is the creative power of assumption. When you truly assume something to be true, you do not need to believe it because you know it. You do not need to be positive about it because you are certain of it. You do not need to affirm it because you live it. This certainty, this knowing, this living from your assumption is what makes the universe respond. It is not your hoping or wishing or wanting that creates. It is your assuming, your accepting, your taking for granted that creates. When you can assume your desire to be already fulfilled with the same naturalness that you assume your name to be what it is, then you have mastered the secret of creation. And once you master this secret with one desire, you can apply it to any area of your life. You can assume perfect health and experience healing. You can assume loving relationships and attract wonderful people into your life. You can assume professional success and find opportunities opening up before you. You can assume financial abundance and discover sources of income you never imagined. There are no limits to what you can create through the power of assumption, except the limits you accept in your own mind. But with this great power comes great responsibility. Use it wisely. Use it for good. Remember that as you create your own reality, you are also contributing to the collective reality of humanity. What you assume for yourself affects not only your own life, but the lives of everyone around you. So assume the best not only for yourself, but for others as well. Live in the assumption that the world is becoming a better place, that humanity is evolving toward greater love and understanding, that peace and prosperity are possible for all. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe individualized. When you learn to make the universe respond to you, you are not manipulating some external force. You are simply learning to consciously direct the creative power that you have always been. You are learning to take your rightful place as the operant power of your world. So I leave you tonight with this challenge. Choose one thing that you truly desire. Make it specific and definite. then assume that you already have it. Live in that assumption. Think from it. Feel from it. Act from it. Persist in it regardless of appearances. And prove to yourself the truth of what I have told you tonight. The secret to changing your life is to make the universe respond. And the universe responds to assumption. Your wonderful human imagination, when disciplined and directed, is the most powerful force in creation. Use it consciously, use it deliberately, use it persistently. And you will discover that you are indeed the master of your fate, the captain of your soul, the creator of your destiny. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is practical mysticism. This is the way creation works. This is the secret that has been hidden from the masses, but revealed to those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. Tonight you have heard it. Now go and prove it in your own experience. Make the universe respond to you by assuming that it already has. Many of you come here night after night, seeking that which you believe is outside of yourself. You seek techniques, methods, and formulas to manifest your desires. Yet I tell you, the greatest technique ever revealed to man is the technique of silence. Not a silence imposed from without, but a silence that rises from within, when the mind becomes aware of itself as the only reality. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This Logos is your own wonderful human imagination. It is the God in you that has been speaking worlds into being from the foundation of time. And this God, this divine creative power, operates most effectively in the silence of your own consciousness. When the human mind is noisy with the chatter of doubt, fear, and limitation, the voice of God, which is your own inner voice, cannot be heard. It is drowned out by the tumult of your surface thinking. But when you learn to still these outer waves of thought, to quiet the mind to its very depths, then you begin to hear that still, small voice that speaks with the authority of the universe. I tell you, God is not interested in your endless affirmations and your constant speaking. God wants you to be silent. For it is in silence that revelation comes. It is in silence that the seed of your desire takes root in the fertile soil of consciousness. It is in silence that the invisible becomes visible and the unmanifest becomes manifest. Now let me share with you a principle that has transformed countless lives, including my own. The principle is this: your consciousness is the one and only reality. Everything that now exists in your world was once only an idea in your consciousness. It had no reality outside of your awareness of it. And everything that will ever exist in your world must first be an idea, a seed planted in the rich soil of your consciousness. But here is the secret that few understand. This seed must be planted in silence. Just as a farmer does not dig up his seeds every day to see if they are growing, you must not constantly disturb your mental seeds with doubt, anxiety, and endless chatter. You must plant them in the silence of absolute faith and leave them to the perfect law that governs all creation. I have told you time and again that imagination creates reality. But tonight I wish to emphasize that imagination works most powerfully in the silence of complete acceptance. When you can be still and know, truly know, that your imagination is God, then you have discovered the secret of secrets. The Bible tells us that on the seventh day, God rested from all his work. This seventh day is not a period of time, but a state of consciousness. It is that state of silent knowing, of complete mental rest, where you no longer labor to make your desires come to pass, because you know they are already yours in the invisible realm of causation. Let me illustrate this principle with a simple example from my own experience. Many years ago, I desired to travel to Barbados to visit my family, but I had no money for the journey. Instead of fretting and struggling and talking endlessly about my problem, I entered the silence. In that silence, I constructed a scene that implied my wish was fulfilled. I imagined myself walking up the gangplank, feeling the rolled up ship's papers in my pocket, smelling the salt air, and hearing the voices of my family welcoming me home. I did not do this once and then spend my days worrying about how it would happen. No, I entered the silence night after night, dwelling in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, until that feeling became more real to me than my physical surroundings. And then, through a series of events that no one could have planned or predicted, the means to make the journey materialized in my world. But it came not through my effort or my planning, but through the effortless working of the law that operates in the silence of complete faith. You see, the outer world is nothing more than the outpicturing of your inner conversations. Your mental conversations are far more powerful than your spoken words. And in the silence of absolute conviction, these mental conversations shape the substance of your reality with an authority that no spoken word could ever possess. Now, someone might ask, but Neville, doesn't God want us to pray? And isn't prayer a form of talking to God? Yes, but true prayer is not what most people think it is. True prayer is not begging or pleading with a God outside yourself. True prayer is the feeling of gratitude and thankfulness that comes when you know your desire is already yours. It is the silence of fulfillment, not the noise of want. When Jesus said, when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, he was telling you to enter the silence of your own consciousness, to shut out the evidence of the senses, and to commune with the God within you who sees in secret and rewards you openly. This is the true meaning of prayer, not endless talking, but silent knowing. I tell you, God wants you to be silent, not just with your lips, but with your doubting mind, with your anxious heart, with your fearful emotions. For in that perfect silence, the power that created worlds finds unobstructed expression through you. The great mystics and seers of all ages have discovered this truth. They did not accomplish their mighty works through ceaseless activity or constant affirmation. They accomplished them through the power of silence, a silence so profound that in it they became one with the source of all being. And in that oneness, they discovered they could speak with the authority of God himself, and the elements of nature would obey. Now let us go deeper into this mystery of silence. There are different levels of silence, just as there are different levels of consciousness. There is the silence of the lips, which is merely the absence of speech. This is the most superficial form of silence, and by itself has little transformative power. Then there's the silence of the mind, where the constant chatter of thoughts subsides and you enter a state of mental quietude. This is a deeper form of silence and is the beginning of true meditation. But beyond this is the silence of desire, where all wanting ceases because you know that you already possess what you seek. This is the silence that Jesus spoke of when he said, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. This is not a silence of emptiness, but a silence filled with the absolute conviction of fulfillment. And finally, there is the silence of being, where you transcend all sense of separate selfhood and know yourself as one with the divine creative power that sustains the universe. This is the silence where miracles are born, where the impossible becomes possible, where the word becomes flesh. I want to emphasize that this silence is not a passive state. It is the most active, most powerful state you can enter. For in this silence, you are aligned with the creative forces of the cosmos. You are at the center of creation, speaking worlds into being through the silent authority of your own I am. Now, someone might say, but Neville, the world is full of noise and distraction. How can I find this silence in the midst of my daily life? The answer is that you must make time for silence, just as you make time for any other important activity. You must set aside periods each day when you withdraw from the world of the senses and enter the kingdom within. For some of you, this might mean rising before dawn when the world is still asleep. For others, it might mean finding a quiet corner during your lunch break. For still others, it might mean the moments before sleep, when the conscious mind begins to surrender to the subconscious. The time and place are not important. What matters is that you establish a regular practice of silence, a holy habit of entering the secret place of the Most High. But remember, the goal is not just to experience silence during these special times. The goal is to carry the silence with you throughout your day, to live from the quiet center of your being, even as you engage with the noisy world around you. This is what it means to pray without ceasing, to maintain that inner connection with the God of silence, no matter what is happening in your external environment. Let me share another principle with you, one that is intimately connected with the power of silence. The principle is this: Consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, the entire world of form and phenomena, is simply consciousness objectified. Your body, your bank account, your relationships, your circumstances, all of these are states of consciousness made visible. Now, if consciousness is the only reality, and if the world is simply consciousness objectified, then it follows that the most effective way to change your world is to change your consciousness. And the most powerful way to change your consciousness is through the silence of assumption. In the silence of your own being, you can assume any state you desire. You can feel yourself to be the person you wish to be, to have the things you wish to have, to experience the circumstances you wish to experience. And if you can maintain this assumption until it takes on the tone of reality, which it will do in the silence of complete acceptance, then your outer world must reshape itself to match your inner conviction. This is not positive thinking or wishful thinking. This is the creative use of the only true causative substance in the universe, consciousness itself. This is the art of conscious assumption, which is the secret of all successful manifestation. But remember, assumption only works in silence. If you assume you are wealthy today and then spend tomorrow talking about your bills and your lack, you have nullified your assumption with the noise of contradiction. If you assume you are healthy and then continually discuss your symptoms with others, you have drowned out the silence of healing with the clamor of complaint. This is why God wants you to be silent. Not to deprive you of expression, but to empower your expression with the force of unshakable conviction. For what you proclaim in silence, in the depths of your consciousness, will always carry more creative power than what you proclaim with your lips. Now I know some of you may be thinking, but Neville, I have tried to be silent. I have tried to assume my wish fulfilled. And yet nothing has changed in my world. To you, I say, check your silence. Is it truly the silence of knowing, or is it merely the silence of hoping? For there is a world of difference between the two. The silence of hoping says, I am assuming my desire is fulfilled, and I hope it will materialize in my world. This is not true silence, for it contains within it the noise of doubt and uncertainty. The silence of knowing says, I am what I have assumed myself to be, and the outer world has no choice but to reflect my assumption. This is the silence that moves mountains. Remember the words of Job, you will decree a thing, and it will be established unto you. But this decree is not made with the lips, or even with the conscious mind. It is made in the silence of complete acceptance, where your wish is fulfilled not as a future possibility, but as a present fact. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this principle. A woman came to me some years ago in dire financial straits. She had lost her job, her savings were depleted, and she faced eviction from her apartment. She had tried everything, applying for jobs, borrowing from friends, even praying in the conventional sense, but nothing had worked. I told her, the solution to your problem is silence. Not the silence of inaction, but the silence of absolute knowing. I instructed her to construct a scene that would imply her financial problems were solved. In her case, it was a scene where she was telling a friend how wonderfully things had turned around, how she now had more than enough money to meet all her needs. I told her to enter this scene each night as she fell asleep, to feel its reality, to hear the words coming from her own lips, to see the joy on her friend's face. But I also gave her a stern warning. During the day, be silent about your problem. Do not discuss it. Do not complain about it. Do not even think about it if you can help it. Maintain the silence of one who knows their prayer is already answered. She followed this advice faithfully, and within 2 weeks, she received an unexpected check in the mail, a tax refund she had forgotten about, plus interest, which was almost exactly the amount she needed to stabilize her situation. Shortly thereafter, she was offered a job that paid significantly more than the one she had lost. When she came back to tell me what had happened, I reminded her, it was not your action that created this change. It was your silence, the silence of one who knows the law and trusts it completely. This story is not unique. I could tell you hundreds like it from my own experience and from the experiences of those who have applied this principle of silence. The law works with mathematical precision when it is not interfered with by the noise of doubt and contradiction. Now let us explore another aspect of this power of silence. The Bible tells us that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Notice the sequence here. Before God spoke the creative word, there was formlessness, void, and darkness. This represents the silence that precedes all creation. It is the still point, the zero state, the empty canvas upon which the divine artist paints the masterpiece of manifestation. In your own life, before you can speak your word with power, before you can effectively assume the state of your wish fulfilled, you must enter this same silence. You must become empty of all preconceptions, free of all anxiety about results, void of all attachment to methods and means. Only in this silence can the Spirit of God, your own wonderful human imagination, hover over the waters of your consciousness and bring forth the light of new creation. This is why meditation, contemplation, and all forms of mental stillness have been practiced by the wise throughout the ages. They understood that silence is not just the absence of noise, but the presence of unlimited potential. They knew that in silence, the finite mind makes contact with the infinite mind, and in that contact, all things become possible. I tell you, God wants you to be silent, because it is only in silence that you can hear the voice of God. And the voice of God is not some external authority telling you what to do. The voice of God is the still small voice within you that says, "I am." It is the voice of your own divine identity, your own unconditioned awareness, speaking with the authority of the universe itself. When you say, "I am," and really feel the depth and power of those words, you are speaking as God. For I am is the name of God, the only name by which the absolute reveals itself in the relative world. And when you add to I am any quality, characteristic, or condition, you are determining the form that the formless will take in your experience. If you say I am poor, or I am sick, or I am unlucky, you are using the creative power of God to manifest those very conditions in your life. But if you say I am wealthy, or I am healthy, or I am blessed, and say it in the silence of absolute conviction, you are using the same power to manifest very different conditions. But here is a subtle point that many miss. The most powerful use of I am comes not in constant affirmation, but in the silence of simply being. When you can be still and know that I am is God, when you can rest in the pure awareness of your own existence without qualification or limitation, you have discovered the creative center of the universe within yourself. From this center, you can speak worlds into being, not with the noise of many words, but with the silence of pure consciousness. For the word that creates is not the word of human language, but the wordless word of divine intention, held steady in the silence of unwavering faith. Now let us discuss a practical application of this principle of silence. Many of you come to me with specific desires for wealth, for health, for love, for success in your chosen field. And you want techniques, methods, specific steps to follow. While I have given many such techniques over the years, tonight I wish to give you the master technique, the one from which all others derive their power. The technique is this: enter the silence of your own being, and from that silence assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Do not ask how it will be fulfilled. Do not worry about the steps that will lead to its fulfillment. Simply enter the silence of the end, the silence of completion, the silence of the wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, enter the silence of being wealthy. Feel the ease, the freedom, the generosity that wealth would give you. See the world through the eyes of one who is abundantly supplied in all ways. Touch the objects that wealth would enable you to touch. Hear the words that wealth would enable you to hear. Become in consciousness the wealthy individual you desire to be. But if this is crucial, do this in silence. Do not brag about your imaginal wealth. Do not tell others about the techniques you are practicing. Do not anxiously look for signs that it is working. Simply live from the silent conviction that you are now what you have imagined yourself to be, and let the outer world reshape itself accordingly. The same principle applies to any other desire. If you seek perfect health, enter the silence of being perfectly healthy. If you long for a loving relationship, enter the silence of being deeply loved. If you aspire to professional success, enter the silence of having already achieved it. In each case, the key is the same: the silence of absolute assumption. This silence must be maintained not just during your specific periods of meditation or imagination, but as much as possible throughout your day. This does not mean you cannot speak or interact with others. It means that in your heart, in the core of your being, you maintain the silent knowing that your desire is already fulfilled. When others speak to you of their problems, listen with compassion, but do not inwardly accept their limitations as your own. When circumstances seem to contradict your assumption, observe them, but do not inwardly grant them the power to shake your conviction. When doubts arise in your own mind, acknowledge them, but do not let them disturb the deeper silence of your unwavering faith. This is the silence that Jesus maintained even as he was being crucified. This is the silence that allowed him to say, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." He did not see death as real because in the silence of his own being, he knew himself to be eternal life. And because he maintained this silence even in the face of apparent destruction, he was able to demonstrate the resurrection that is the birthright of every child of God. You too can achieve what the world would call miracles if you will only learn to be silent in the way I have described. For miracles are not violations of natural law, but the operation of a higher law, the law of consciousness, which supersedes all lesser laws when it is applied in silence and faith. Now, I know that for many of you, maintaining this silence is difficult. The world is full of evidence that seems to contradict your assumptions, your own senses, your own memory, your own habitual thinking. All seem to argue against the reality of your imagined state. This is why the practice of silence must be cultivated, developed, strengthened through regular use. Start with small things. Assume a state that is not too far removed from your present experience and practice maintaining the silence of that assumption until it manifests. As your confidence grows, as your understanding of the law deepens, you can apply the same principle to larger, more significant changes. But always remember, the power is not in the size of your desire, but in the depth of your silence. A small desire assumed in perfect silence will manifest more quickly and more perfectly than a large desire held with doubt and anxiety. Master the art of silence with the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves. Let me emphasize another aspect of this silence that is often overlooked. The silence I am speaking of is not a passive, inactive state. It is not about doing nothing in the outer world. You should continue to take the actions that your position in life requires. If you have a job, perform it to the best of your ability. If you have responsibilities, fulfill them conscientiously. If opportunities present themselves, explore them with enthusiasm. The silence is in your consciousness, in your inner conviction, in your mental and emotional attitude toward yourself and your world. It is perfectly possible, indeed, it is essential to combine outer activity with inner silence. This is what Jesus meant when he advised us to render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. Caesar represents the world of effects, the outer realm of form and circumstance. God represents the world of causes, the inner realm of consciousness and imagination. By maintaining silence in the realm of causes, by knowing without doubt or contradiction that you are what you have imagined yourself to be, you imbue your actions in the realm of effects with transformative power. This is why two people can perform exactly the same actions and get completely different results. One acts from the noise of anxiety and limitation, while the other acts from the silence of confidence and fulfillment. Though their outer movements may be identical, the consciousness behind those movements is worlds apart, and the results reflect this difference. Now, someone might ask, but Neville, if God wants me to be silent, why do you speak? Why do you give lectures and write books? Isn't this a contradiction? The answer is that my speaking comes from silence. It is not the noise of personal opinion or intellectual speculation. It is the overflow of that deeper silence where I know myself to be one with the divine creative power. And I speak not to convince you through argument, but to awaken in you the memory of what you already know in the silence of your own being. For you see, you are God, not in some abstract metaphorical sense, but in the most literal, most immediate way possible. The I am consciousness that reads these words right now is the same I am that spoke light into existence at the dawn of creation. It is the same I am that parted the Red Sea, that stopped the sun in Gibeon, that raised the dead and healed the sick through the body of Jesus. The only difference between you and these manifestations of divine power is that they knew their true identity in the silence of absolute conviction, while you have forgotten yours in the noise of sensory evidence and social conditioning. My purpose in speaking is not to give you something you lack, but to remind you of something you already possess, the power of silence, the power of I am, the power of God himself expressing through your own wonderful human imagination. When you truly grasp this truth, not intellectually, but in the silence of your own being, you will understand why God wants you to be silent. It is not to diminish your expression, but to ensure that when you do express, you do so with the authority of one who knows they are speaking as God. For only words born in silence carry the power to create worlds. Let me share one more principle with you before we conclude tonight's discussion. The principle is this: the state of consciousness from which you view the world determines what you see and experience in the world. If you view the world from a state of lack, you will see evidence of lack everywhere. If you view it from a state of abundance, you will see evidence of abundance everywhere. The world itself does not change, but your perception of it, and consequently your experience of it, changes completely. This is why it is so important to enter the silence of the wish fulfilled. For in that silence you have your world not as it appears to be, but as it must become to match a new state of consciousness. And since consciousness is the only reality, the world has no choice but to rearrange itself to reflect your silent assumption. Remember the words of William Blake: if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. The silence I am speaking of cleanses the doors of perception. It removes the dust and grime of leading beliefs, fearful projections, and past disappointments, allowing you to see the infinite potential that has always been there. In this cleansed perception, you recognize that nothing is impossible, nothing is fixed or final, nothing is beyond the reach of your silent assumption. You see that the entire universe is fluid, responsive, alive with the same consciousness that beats in your own heart and thinks in your own mind. And in this recognition, you are free to create, free to express, free to become whatever you can conceive and believe in the silence of your own being. So tonight, I urge you to practice the power of silence, not as a technique to get things, but as a way of being that naturally attracts and creates the life you desire. Enter the silence of your own consciousness, and from that silence, assume a feeling of your wish fulfilled. Maintain this assumption not through constant effort or ceaseless affirmation, but through the quiet confidence of one who knows the law and trusts it implicitly. God wants you to be silent, because in silence you are most like God. In silence you create as God creates, not through labor and struggle, but through the effortless expression of your own divine nature. In silence you discover that you are not a helpless creature in a vast, indifferent universe, but the very source and substance of that universe, expressing itself in human form for the joy of creation. So be still and know that I am is God. Be silent and let the power that created worlds work through you to create the life you have imagined. For in the perfect silence of absolute assumption, all things are possible, and the word becomes flesh before your very eyes. Remember, in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Not in noise, not in many words, not in ceaseless activity, but in the profound silence of knowing, really knowing that you are what you have imagined yourself to be. This is the secret of secrets, the mystery of mysteries, the power of powers. And now as you leave here tonight and return to your daily lives, carry this silence with you. Let it be your constant companion, your trusted guide, your unshakable foundation. For the one who has discovered the power of silence has discovered the power that moves worlds, the power that transforms lives, the power that turns the word into flesh and dwells among us. The power of silence is the power of God himself, expressing through your own wonderful human imagination. Use it wisely, use it lovingly, use it confidently, and watch as the invisible becomes visible and the impossible becomes possible in ways that no one, including yourself, could ever have planned or predicted. For this is the promise of the ages, the testimony of the prophets, the secret taught by Jesus to his closest disciples. The kingdom of God is within you. And this kingdom is entered not through much speaking, but through the perfect silence of one who knows that I am is the name of God, and that this I am is your own true identity now and forever. Thank you, and good night.